They said my daughter drowned, made me bury a closed casket, said her face was too damaged. But at the funeral, I saw her, alive, watching me. That night, at 3:08 a.m., I got a message. Mom, I'm still here. They told me my daughter drowned on a school trip. They said she slipped into the lake during a group hike, and by the time anyone noticed she was missing, it was already too late. Her body, they claimed, was recovered early the next morning. Closed casket. No viewing. The trauma to her face was too severe. They said, I don't remember the days that followed. I know I signed papers. I know people came, offering food and condolences. I moved like a ghost through a world that no longer made sense. But I remember the funeral. It was overcast, damp, the kind of air that clings to your skin and makes you feel like you're sinking. I stood there, my husband's hand crushing mine like a vice. The priest was saying something generic about young souls, and I just froze. And then I saw her, behind the last row of chairs, half hidden beneath a hood, arms crossed, eyes locked onto mine. It was her, Emily, my daughter. She didn't look scared or confused. She just stood there, still, silent, watching me. I blinked, and she was gone. I turned to my husband. Did you see that? He shook his head slowly. You're grieving, he whispered. It's normal to see things. No, I said. I saw her. He pulled me into his arms, whispering into my hair. She's gone. Sweetheart, you have to let her go. But I couldn't, because no hallucination stares back at you, with eyes full of knowing. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch with an old photo of Emily at age 10, missing her front tooth, still obsessed with princess dresses, still laughing without fear. At 3:08 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. Mom, I'm still here. I dropped the phone. When I picked it up again, the message was still there. No reply option, no contact name, just that single line. I tried to screenshot it, but it disappeared before I could tap the screen. I showed my husband the next morning. He looked at me with tired pity. You probably dreamed it. I didn't. I said, it was real. He didn't argue. He just checked my phone's log, set it down face first on the table, and said, if it happens again, let me know. But it didn't. Not like that. The next message didn't come through the phone. It came on the window, not written with marker, not scratched in. It was traced through the condensation with a fingertip. Mom, I'm still here. Same words, Same spacing, same handwriting. I'd watched her practice for years. I ran outside, barefoot. The air was sharp and bitter. No one, no movement, no footprints, just wind cutting through the trees. I turned back to the house. The message was still on the glass. Inside, my husband stood at the kitchen window. He'd seen me react. He'd seen me open the door, but he said nothing. He just watched me wipe it clean with a shaking hand. 2 days later, I did what I'd been avoiding. I opened her backpack. It was exactly as she'd left it. Worn at the corners, the zipper still stiff, her keychain dangling like always. 2 kittens in space helmets. At the very bottom, her phone. I charged it. The screen lit up, cracked, but still working. I tried her birthday as the passcode. It worked, and what I found inside made my skin go cold. The screen lit up with that familiar lock screen. A photo of Emily and her best friend Ava, both holding iced coffees, laughing under the sun. God, her smile. It hit me like a punch to the chest. I clicked into her photos. The last picture she ever took wasn't what I expected. It wasn't from the hiking trail. It wasn't a selfie. It was rushed, off-center, blurry, like she took it while moving. It showed trees, dense, dark, and in the bottom left corner, barely visible, a shadow, a figure, someone standing there, watching her. The timestamp. 3 hours after the time the school said she went missing. I sat back. My mouth went dry. My skin went tight. The school claimed Emily drowned during a group hike, that she must have wandered off near the lake. But if this photo was real, if she took it after they said she was gone, then something was terribly wrong. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I did something I shouldn't have. I showed my husband. He was in his office, typing something. When I stepped in, he looked startled, quickly minimized a window. Look at this, I said, handing him the phone. He squinted. What am I looking at? The timestamp, right there. He leaned in and froze. A long pause, then he pressed and held the photo and deleted it, just like that. What are you doing? I gasped. He still didn't meet my eyes. It's probably corrupted. Metadata gets weird. You're spiraling again. No, I said, my voice sharp. You just deleted proof. He raised his voice slightly. It was nothing. Karen. A blurry photo doesn't mean she's alive. You didn't even ask what it meant. He grabbed the phone, tried unlocking it again, but the passcode had already reset. I snatched it back. Don't touch her things. Later that night, I went into Emily's room, sat on the edge of her bed. I held her old hoodie to my face and cried until I couldn't breathe. What if he knew? What if he planned all this? What if she wasn't dead? When he finally went to bed, I turned his computer on. He never locked it. Never expected I'd snoop. There it was again. Estate, Emily. My throat tightened. Inside were even more files: power of attorney changes, medical authorizations, life insurance updates, and one document that stood out: emergency psychological transfer form, Oak Spring Behavioral Health. Same date, 5 days before her accident. Same signature, my husband's. No mention of me, no consent from the mother. Nothing. I copied everything to a flash drive, and I made a call. Jason was a private investigator Ava's mom had used once, back when she suspected her ex-husband was hiding assets. He handled divorces, custody battles, infidelity. Discreet, sharp, unshakable. I think my daughter's still alive. I told him. He didn't laugh, didn't call me crazy. He just said, send me everything you've got. I'll need 48 hours, maybe less. 44 hours later, I got a single message, a location pin on a map. Jason's voice was steady, but urgent. No public records, no state licenses, cameras, full-time staff, not accessible to civilians. But the coordinates check out. I called him instantly. You're not coming with me. He paused. They'd never let me in, not through the front. But if you go in as someone they're used to seeing. 10 minutes later, he sent over a new identity. A linen delivery courier. Badge, route schedule, a forged invoice from a contracted cleaning vendor. Nothing flashy, nothing official, just real enough to blend in. Because Jason had done this before. And I was terrified, but I was also a mother. So I was going. Jason warned me not to go alone. Places like that don't operate by accident, he said. If your daughter's in there, they're either getting paid a fortune or hiding something no one wants seen. But I couldn't wait. Not another night. Not another hour. Because if Emily was alive, if she was breathing behind those walls, then every second I waited was another second she believed I'd abandoned her. Oak Spring didn't look like a hospital. It looked like a fortress. High concrete walls, electric gate, armed security, no signs, no welcome center. From the road, it just looked like a cluster of trees. But satellite view told a different story: multiple buildings, inner fences, blind alleys. Jason had pieced together utility records and satellite grids to even prove it existed. I didn't go through the front gate. I came in through the back service entrance, dressed in neutral scrubs and carrying a forged badge Jason made for a linen contractor. A bored security guard barely looked at me. The gate buzzed open. I parked behind a catering van and pushed a rolling cart into the east wing. Inside, it felt colder than I'd imagined. The lights were sterile, the floors too clean. There were no pictures, no bulletin boards, no windows, just a long corridor lined with locked doors, and a check-in counter staffed by a man in gray scrubs. He looked up, barely interested. Delivery, I nodded. Linens, where should I drop? He tossed a clipboard toward me. It had room numbers, no names, no diagnoses, just building IDs and floor designations. I scanned them, trying not to let my hands shake. That's when it hit me. I had no idea which room was hers. I walked the halls pretending to deliver sheets. My eyes scanned every door. Some had meal trays outside, others had restraining notices. Most had nothing, no voices, no signs of life, until I turned a corner and a door opened. A nurse stepped out, carrying a tray. She looked startled to see me. You're new? I nodded. Orientation shift. Got the linen route? She eyed me, cautious. This wing's adolescent psych. Linens are building B. Oh, sorry. Must have taken a wrong stairwell. She stared at me for a second too long, Then said, come with me. I'll redirect you. We walked in silence. I counted every door we passed. No names, just plaques. 313, 314, 315. And then, a sound. Soft, muffled. A voice. From behind one of the doors. Mom, I stopped cold. The nurse kept walking. Didn't react, but I couldn't move. I turned to the door, pressed my ear against it. Did you hear that I whispered? She turned, cautious now. Hear what another voice, desperate. Please. Mom. I reached for the handle. Locked. Who's in here? I asked. The nurse stepped closer, voice harder now. That's not your concern. She said my name. That's enough. Let's go. I didn't move. She did. Grabbed my wrist. Spun me toward the hallway. Her grip was stronger than I expected. Out. She hissed. Now? She marched me back to the front lobby. Pushed open the door. You don't work here, she said, shoving me outside. I'll call the police. She leaned in, face flat. No one will believe you. Then she shut the door. I sat in my car, trembling, called Jason. No answer. My fingers were ice as I opened my laptop and typed, I found her. And under that, but they're hiding her like she never existed. The nurse thought dragging me out by the arm and slamming that door would end everything, that I'd be too shaken to fight back, that hearing my daughter's voice by, even for a second, would be written off as grief, delusion, denial, but she didn't know what I had in my pocket. She didn't know I was still recording. Jason played the clip 3 times. He didn't speak during the first 2, just sat there, jaw clenched, listening like every breath mattered. On the 3rd time through, I whispered, that was her, wasn't it? He nodded. That was Emily. The audio was muffled, but clear enough. A girl's voice, low, frightened, urgent. Mom. A pause. Mom, please. Then, a door slamming. Jason exhaled slowly. His eyes were already 1,000 moves ahead. They're not just holding her, I said. They've erased her. He tapped the folder on his desk. There's no Emily in their patient registry. You're not listed as guardian. Your name doesn't exist anywhere in the system. He slid a paper toward me. And this, your husband filed for full guardianship 3 weeks before her accident. Court-stamped. Signed. Finalized. The room tilted beneath me. You're telling me he did this on purpose? Jason didn't flinch. I'm telling you he planned it. The next day, Jason showed up at my door with a duffel bag. Inside, a body cam disguised as a pen, a burner phone, a forged inspector ID, and a listening device no larger than a paperclip. You're going back in, he said, but this time, we don't guess. We document. We record everything. We walk out with evidence, or we bring the whole thing down. I nodded, but inside, my chest was trembling, because this wasn't just about rescue anymore. It was about truth, exposure, survival. But before we could even start, someone knocked on the door. 2:03 a.m. Jason was already on alert. He melted into the hallway, out of view. I stepped toward the front door, heart pounding, and opened it. He was standing there, my husband, his face pale, his eyes colder than I'd ever seen them. Where were you yesterday, he asked. My stomach dropped. I went to get groceries. I lied. He didn't blink. You went to Oak Spring. Silence filled the space between us like smoke. They called me. He continued. Said someone tried to sneak in, matched your description. He took a step forward. I told you to stop digging. You're making things worse. I stared back, every muscle locked in place. You buried an empty coffin, I whispered. His jaw twitched. Then he smiled. Not the kind of smile people give you when they're hurt, the kind that people wear when they win. That empty coffin gave us peace, he said. You're the one who keeps ripping it open. I shut the door in his face, then turned to Jason. We finished this. Tonight, that night, we played another audio file, a recording Emily had hidden deep in her mattress. One Jason recovered using a cloned drive from her recovered phone backups. Her voice was different now, softer, broken. He said I'd ruin everything, that if I stayed, people would find out about the debt, about the papers, that he'd go to prison, a pause. So he made them take me, told them I was unstable. He promised someone money if I disappeared. Jason leaned back slowly, stunned. It wasn't just insurance, he muttered. He pulled up his laptop, typed something, then turned the screen to me. A property sale, large, finalized 2 weeks after the funeral, land that was once mine, left by my parents. Your husband sold everything. Jason said, transferred it in full. Signed power of attorney documents under your name. My hands trembled, but I never signed anything. Jason looked at the audio recorder. Then this, he tapped it. Is your detonator? The plan was fast, simple, brutal. Stage a call from the Department of Health. claim a complaint had been filed, demand access. I'd go in first, armed with Emily's school records, her birth certificate, photos, and the voice recordings. If they blocked me, we'd go public. If they tried anything else, Jason had reporters on standby. Lawyers, too. We would burn it all down. But before we could even begin, I found something in my mailbox. A single envelope. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a printed photo. Emily, eyes swollen, wrist bruised, sitting on a cot inside a padded cell. Scrawled in pen on the back. You're too late. The gates of Oak Spring didn't groan this time. They slid open like any other facility on any normal day. Like they hadn't once thrown me out like a criminal. Like they hadn't buried my daughter in lies while she was still breathing. I stepped through, my hands clutching a folder of legal documents, a microphone sewn into the seam of my jacket, and Jason's voice quietly waiting on the other end of a live audio feed parked 2 blocks away. But something felt wrong the moment I crossed the threshold. Too quiet, too sterile, too staged. The nurse at the front desk didn't even look up. Same one as last time. Same cold eyes, same frozen face of practiced indifference. I'm here to follow up on a patient welfare report, I said. I slid the ID badge Jason had forged across the desk. Department of Health, emblem, state seal, and a red LED pin light that signaled Jason we were rolling. She picked it up, scanned it slowly. Name she asked. Emily Rains. She typed, stopped, typed again, then said flatly, no patient by that name. My stomach dropped. She was in room 14. You escorted me to the door 2 days ago. She didn't even blink. There is no room 14. My blood went cold. What? There's no room 14 on this floor. That's impossible. You walked me there. I've never seen you before. Each word was a blade. I turned, and the hallway behind me had changed. Where there had been numbered doors, there were none. Just polished walls, blank nameplates, staff-only access. Room 14 was gone. It was like it had never existed. Jason's voice whispered in my earpiece. Low, controlled. They moved her, or worse. I could barely swallow. Try to stall. He said, I'm cross-checking satellite overlays. I stepped closer to the desk. Listen, I said, my voice tight. I have proof, audio proof. My daughter is in this building. I have guardianship forms, insurance documents, school records. I have a voice recording of her calling out for me. The nurse didn't flinch. If you don't leave now, I'll call security. I pulled a photo from my folder. Emily, 13 years old, grinning at the base of a waterfall in Maine. She is my daughter, I said. You don't get to erase her. Not while she's still alive. That's when the second nurse emerged. Bigger, broader shoulders, no expression. He didn't speak, just reached for my arm. This time, they didn't escort me. They shoved me. I hit the pavement outside the gate, documents flying, my palms scraped open, knees burning. Jason's voice crackled through the earpiece again. Karen, don't move. I sat up slowly, brushing blood off my sleeve. I just checked archived blueprints from the county assessor. He said, room 14 was real. 2 years ago it was listed as a psychiatric isolation unit. And now, he said grimly, it doesn't exist on record. They wiped it. We drove back to his office in silence. When we arrived, he laid everything out again. Every document, photo, and clip across the table like pieces of a shattered puzzle. I stared down at them, my voice barely a whisper. They moved her. They knew we were coming. Jason nodded. Someone tipped them off. That's when something hit me. A detail I'd missed before. The cremation paperwork, the signature at the bottom. Not my husband's, his brother's, the funeral director. We drove straight to his office. No warning, no plan. He opened the door looking half dead, pale, frail, like he hadn't slept in months. Karen, he said slowly, is everything all right? You tell me, I said. I'm trying to remember who authorized burning my daughter's body without my consent. He froze. I was told you signed off, that you were too emotional to handle it. By who? Jason asked, stepping forward. My brother-in-law swallowed hard. He didn't need to say the name. We already knew. By my brother. He whispered. I stepped closer, voice shaking, rage boiling beneath my skin. Was she ever dead? He didn't answer, so I pulled out my phone. Hit play. Mom, please. Emily's voice echoed through the tiny office. The man's face crumpled, then. He shut his eyes, and then he broke. He said he hadn't known at first. He was told Emily drowned, that the body was too damaged for a viewing, That cremation was merciful, quick, quiet. Easier for me. He never questioned it. Until weeks later, when he got a call to pick up a shipment from Oak Spring. When he arrived, he was taken to a restricted wing. And there, behind reinforced glass, he saw her, sedated, alive, his niece. He turned to his brother, in horror, but my husband didn't blink. "She's not leaving," he'd said. "You understand, I thought if I stayed out of it, it would go away," the man said, barely choking the words. "I told myself you'd be better off." Jason leaned in, calm but firm. "Where is she now?" The man hesitated, then scribbled something on a yellow notepad. A new name, a new location, a private facility, 3 hours north, registered under a false patient identity. Emily had been erased and rewritten. He scribbled a name and an address on the back of a napkin. A new facility, remote, deep in the woods. No website, no staff directory, not even a public-facing utility bill. It was, for all intents and purposes, a black hole, a dead zone, a place that didn't officially exist. Jason's fingers moved fast across his laptop, pulling records buried under layers of dummy corporations and fake business licenses. And there it was. The trail led back. Surprise, surprise, to my husband. His name wasn't on anything directly, but every signature, every payment, every lease, all traced to one account. "He's moving her tonight," Jason muttered. "This facility's just a pit stop. Once she's inside, she vanishes. For good." We didn't wait for a court order. There was no time. Jason had one last favor to call in. A former sheriff's deputy turned investigator. Someone who knew exactly how to move in the dark without drawing attention. We gave him everything. The recordings. The signed transfer forms. The cremation lie. Even the confession from my brother-in-law. Within the hour, we got our answer. No sirens, no news vans, no arrest teams, just a quiet green light, a window, one chance. The building was buried behind trees, camouflaged by layers of brush and barbed fencing. No signs, just steel and silence. Jason cut the engine a full mile out. We walked the rest in the dark. Step by step, heartbeat by heartbeat. "I'll go in first," Jason whispered, adjusting the mic in his collar. "You hang back. Wait for my signal." But I couldn't hang back. I followed, because I wasn't walking toward danger. I was walking toward my daughter. Inside, it smelled of chemicals and plastic. No sound, no movement, just faint humming from overhead lights. Then, voices, muffled, from the hallway on the left. Jason signaled to stop, but I didn't. I pushed past him. I knew that voice. Even drugged, even distant, even nearly lost. I knew it. "Please don't. She'll come. My mom." I turned the corner, and there she was, strapped to a wheelchair, eyes half open, skin pale, a nurse standing beside her with a clipboard, filling out discharge paperwork like it was any other night. But this wasn't any other night. This was the night everything broke. Jason moved fast, badge out, voice sharp, Department of Health and Human Services, step away from the patient. The nurse froze. Who authorized this?" she stammered. "We don't have any patient." Jason cut her off by pulling out a recorder and pressing play. "Mom, please." The nurse went white. "I'm calling security." "No," Jason said, calm, steady. That's when his contact stepped forward from behind, plain clothes, but badge visible. "This facility is under investigation." He barked. "No one moves. No one leaves. Not without a warrant and a witness." I dropped to my knees in front of Emily. Her eyes fluttered. "Mom," I held her face in my hands. Felt the weight of weeks and lies and sedatives slipping from her bones. "I'm here," I whispered. "I'm here, baby, and I'm not letting you go again." They tried to bury the story. My husband sent lawyers, made threats, claimed I was unstable, grieving, easily manipulated, but the cracks were already showing. Jason had everything. The audio clips, the guardianship fraud, the forged cremation documents, the paper trail tying my husband to an illegal transfer. We didn't go to the police. Not yet. Jason leaked just enough. To one journalist, one caseworker, one state compliance officer. Whispers started to spread, just loud enough that people began asking questions, and once that started, there was no stopping it. Emily came home 2 weeks later. The detox was brutal. The trauma ran deeper than we could see. But she was here. She was alive. every night since. She slept in her own bed, beneath the same glow-in-the-dark stars we stuck to her ceiling when she was 7. She hasn't asked about what happened. Not yet, but she will. And when she does, I'll be ready. Because I kept it all. Every voice memo, every forged paper, every moment someone tried to erase her. Not to haunt her, but to remind her. She was never broken. She was never lost. She was stolen. And I was never going to stop. Until I got her back. No matter who. I had to burn down to do it. They say hindsight is 20/20. But no one tells you how much it hurts when the puzzle finally comes together. And all you see is the knife that was in your back the whole time. The night we brought Emily home. I sat beside her hospital bed and held her hand while she slept. Jason was in the living room, making calls, preparing files, tying off loose ends. That's when the funeral director, my brother-in-law, came back. He stood in the hallway for a long time before speaking. "There's something you don't know," he said. "Something I should have told you from the beginning. It started with money. Gregory wasn't Emily's biological father. He married me when Emily was 4, and even though she called him Dad her whole life, he was never her legal guardian. Not until he forged it. But that didn't stop him from seeing her as an asset. What I didn't know was that he'd racked up debt for years. Risky business ventures, failed startups, cryptocurrency scams, even off-the-books loans from people who don't bother with second chances. We were broke, but on paper, we looked fine. A house, 2 cars, a modest retirement fund, but none of it could be sold without my signature. Except for one thing, Emily's land, 10 acres of untouched property, a gift from my late mother, left in Emily's name alone. A trust meant to unlock when she turned 21. It wasn't just sentimental, it. Turns out, the state was planning a highway extension in that area. The government had begun sending feelers, eminent domain offers. What was once a quiet patch of woods suddenly became a multi-million-dollar asset. But Emily wouldn't sell. She had dreams, a greenhouse, a local co-op, a plan to feed people in food deserts. She didn't want money. She wanted purpose. She said no, and she meant it. Gregory, my husband, her stepfather, couldn't take that. Not when he saw her land as the only way out of his mess. So he got creative. He forged medical documents, psych evaluations, mental health reports, school behavior notes. He even paid off a consultant to sign a court order labeling her mentally unfit to manage property or make legal decisions. And then, 5 days before that school trip, he filed paperwork declaring himself sole legal guardian by medical necessity. While I sobbed into my pillow, while I mourned a coffin with no face, he sold her land. Transferred it through a shell company. Closed the deal weeks after the funeral. The money never hit our joint account, because by then, he already had what he wanted. He told his brother, the funeral director, that she had drowned, that I was unstable, that a closed casket would be best. When his brother saw Emily alive and sedated in Oak Spring, he didn't speak up, because the check had already cleared. I sat there, numb. The night Emily came home crying about a fight with her dad, the sudden pressure to sell land we hadn't touched in years, the flat way he said, "We have to move on." It wasn't grief. It was calculation. I didn't tell Emily, not yet. She didn't need to carry this weight on top of everything else. But I made myself a promise that night. Whatever part of Gregory still walks free, when this is over, I'll take it down myself, brick by brick, just like he did to her. The first knock came before sunrise. A soft tap on the door, followed by 3 sharper raps. Just enough rhythm to make my stomach twist. Jason opened it before I could get there. 2 officers stood on the porch, badges visible, eyes heavy with the kind of knowledge you don't envy. Karen Rains, one of them asked. I nodded. "We have a warrant for the arrest of Gregory Rains, on charges of conspiracy to commit fraud, unlawful detainment of a minor, falsifying medical documents, and embezzlement." The words hit like thunder. Not because I didn't expect them, but because I did. And now the world was finally catching up to the truth I had to dig out of a grave. The media moved fast. Jason had kept every shred of evidence. Recordings, forged papers, the secret facility, the financial trail. Within 24 hours, it was everywhere, but stepfather declared, teen dead to steal land, girl drugged, institutionalized, all for inheritance. Buried by her own stepfather, and then found, talk shows, podcasts. Headlines, they called it the ultimate betrayal. They called Emily the girl who rose from her own grave. but no one called to ask how she was sleeping, or whether she could eat without gagging, or why she flinched when she heard footsteps in the hallway. Because this wasn't just a crime, it was trauma, one that started with a forged signature and nearly ended in oblivion. The trial moved slower. His lawyers tried to spin it, claimed Gregory suffered a mental break, that he was overwhelmed, that he feared for Emily's well-being and made desperate decisions. But the jury wasn't buying it, not after hearing Emily's voice. Jason played the final audio in court, the one where she whispered, "I'm still here. Mom, please." The courtroom went silent. Even the judge paused to wipe her eye. Gregory, her stepfather, not her blood, never looked at me once, not when I testified, not when the verdict came in, not even when they cuffed him and walked him out through the back exit, like a coward. But truthfully, that man left our lives the moment he put a price tag on my daughter's head. And yet, closure doesn't come wrapped in a verdict. Emily still wakes up some nights, confused, whispering to shadows. Sometimes, I find her curled up on the hallway rug with her stuffed bear, as if the bed still feels too soft to be real, but she's healing. So am I. Last week, we visited the land, her land, the one they tried to steal, the one they tried to silence her for. The sun was low, the wildflowers had returned. Emily walked to the old creek, picked up a smooth stone, and tossed it in. Then, she said, quietly, but clearly, "I think I'll build a greenhouse here, with a reading corner. Not to forget the past, but to grow something from it." We took a photo that day, arms around each other, smiles still cautious, but honest. And later, when we got home, Emily asked me something simple, Mom. What would have happened if I never got that message out? I looked at her, held her hand, and told her the only thing I knew for sure. You did, and I heard you. That's what saved us both.